welcome back, you guys. So this is Outlier, Back to the Future Part 3. The finale, yep. So this one, if you guys have been following along, if not, it's fine because we're going to kind of recap everything today. But long story short, we started 10 years in the past. So we went 2014, 17, 20, 23, and then part of today is, showing the differences between all those years. And then going into this year and looking into the future. So I guess let's just get straight to it, man. And it's been a wild week in real estate, but
Indeed.
all right. So yeah, we're not even going to mess around today. We're just going to get straight to the point.
Yep.
So here's our roadmap. We did the years in review as we went along to these different planets, and then so that's us. We're kind of in between 23 and heading to 26 let's just get into this right now, I guess. I didn't really plan on this, but so we can reconvene with this at the end as well. But things I'm watching for, I guess, going into this is, the whole NAR thing is going to throw real estate for a loop potentially. My personal opinion, I think it's a big old nothing burger, but I could be wrong, and we'll find out. At the end of the day, capitalism reigns. The good agents will still be there and still be good. Those not so good agents, maybe this kind of kicks them to the curb. What's your brief thoughts on it?
Well, it's interesting because I work in the legal space, right? So we were talking about possibles and what this could possibly turn to, and a little background for you guys in terms of the legal space and how attorneys actually bill, right? Attorneys bill, really, there's only three ways, more or less. Contingency, which that's your typical personal injury cases. That is, I'm essentially doing this case more or less pro bono until we get a settlement or we get a judgment in our favor where you're going to get a payout for X amount of dollars, and then I'm getting a percentage of that.
That's kind of been real estate thus far.
That's exactly correct. So real estate is contingency. It's contingent upon you closing that deal, right? And then you get paid. But up until that point, it's really pretty much pro bono. And you just say, hey, this is what my percentage is. The other two ways that attorneys bill, hourly, they're actually tracking their hours, or flat fee. Those are the two most common. And there's also a combination of those two where they can say, I work on hourly, but let's say it's an estate planning client. I'm going to do a flat fee of, $1,500 to create you a trust. But if you want me to do a full estate plan, that's an hourly, but maybe there's a mix of that. But so as we were talking about this NAR ruling, okay. But if it goes kind of towards that attorney model, agents will still just kind of revert back to that, or it's just going to hurt the client in the long run.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how it plays out. There's still a lot of moving pieces. Still, most people are still trying to figure out what this really means. We keep getting conflicting information. But on the onslaught of it is it looks like first-time homebuyers are going to be screwed. I mean, it's looking the way the media is portraying it, which a lot of it is fear-based. Like, I wouldn't put much credence to it. But, just outside looking in, it's like, okay, well, buyers are going to have to pay for their agents. And I have a lot of first-time buyers that need concessions anyway for their down payment. So now you're saying, oh, now you got to have a down payment, closing costs, and pay for your agent. And any good agent is not going to be, you would hope, any more discounted than what they really are now anyway. So I don't know. It's going to be interesting.
Especially if you toss in there again, like if you start having to bill hourly, these first-time home buyers are going to go bankrupt and not be able to buy a house anyway. So then you're going to see those scummy agents who take advantage of that, and they would love to show every single house on the market, right? Yeah, this doesn't meet your criteria at all, but let's go check it out, because then you can bill for that, right?
Well, and you get what you pay for, and this is going to be even more evident, again, if that plays out the way that the media is playing it out to be. I don't think it is, but yeah, I mean, it's going to be interesting. So we'll keep you guys posted as we learn more. But so going into the future, that's one piece of it, is the commission side of things. But we also have, as we know, AI is taking over a lot of aspects of the world, really. And so that's something that I just put on as like, I'm curious to see how that plays into real estate. I don't know how much it could, other than maybe marketing and like photography side of stuff. I don't see anything necessarily with the sales piece, like the transactional things, but you never know. Crypto, I mean, we all know what Bitcoin's doing right now is going pretty gnarly. And then, frankly, I just put on here the world economy because things are weird right now. Um, Curious to see what happens with commercial because commercial is one that got pounded during the pandemic, and I won't even say it's necessarily even rebounded. So I'm curious to see how that plays out, especially tying into the AI piece of things. And then land is going to be king. It always has been king, but as these builders build more because they have to build more, if you can find your little piece of paradise of 5+ acres, you're going to be doing great. And then retirement accounts. The reason I put that on here is because we'll look at the stats today, but it's been getting worse as we go down these 10 years. And then consumer debt and spending. The flip of that's been going up as we go through these 10 years. And that's not getting any better. So that's what I have in my horizon.
Yeah, I would add. I agree with all that. I don't know if this is course for this podcast, but I would. Yeah, that's true. But I would say like, you know, the weird times in the world. It's very weird times. Um, like, what is your family planning to do in terms of if a cataclysmic event happens, right? And prepping, and that kind of ties into like the land is king thing. And living in the city is fantastic until it's not, right? So that's a piece of it, and there's a balance in that. Balance of that us and our family have been figuring out the best way to approach. I think one thing on there too is college is dead.
Oh, we'll get to that.
Yeah, I think college is completely dead. I think especially with the generation that will be coming into college, where they've grown up now on TikTok and YouTube and all of these other platforms, they're like, why would I ever go to college unless I'm going into STEM?
Well, being that my daughter's going to be at that age group in the next 8 years, unless something drastically changes, I've already kind of told her, like, look, unless you're going, she wants to be a vet. If you want to be a vet, that's cool. I'll pay for that. But STEM and/or law, and even then, but outside of STEM, I'm not paying for it. It doesn't make sense.
So I would say those. I think, and I don't know the answer to this, but for the last 5 years, everybody's been saying like go learn coding. I don't think that's gonna matter.
AI can do it now.
Well, we won't talk about what it's used for, but like, yeah, like it literally is.
Well, we did a joke. I can't remember if it was this or Diverse Pod, but because back when the truckers and all that stuff, and they're like, "Well, learn code, bro," and the way AI has been going, it's like you can tell AI to code everything you want. As far in my novice amount of knowledge I have with coding, okay, let me preface that. But the reverse of that is like learn a trade, bro.
Just gonna say, I'm like, that's college is dead. Go to trade school. One of your / our good friends is now making great money, and he wishes he would have done it sooner. And because he was in his mid-20s when he started.
Yeah, he's one of those that got his motivation later in life, and that happens for a lot of people.
Mhm.
But the fact of the matter is, it's better that it happens. Is better late than never, right? Type of thing. And now he's a licensed plumber now, and he's working on his journeyman, and he'll be making great money.
Mm-hmm.
And that type of business is never going away.
Never. AI can't do that.
No, it can't. It can't.
At least not for the next 5-10 years at minimum. So it's like that's something I would add to that. Outside of that, I would say, I mean, there's a lot that we'll probably get into that's coming to my head right now, like retirement accounts, but cryptocurrency and real estate kind of all tie into one kind of big subject in my brain. Yeah, and then again, like the kind of the preparedness stuff times, paired with the job market and retirement accounts and consumer debt and spending, and that's kind of another big piece of my brain. How what my world is every day in my brain. But
You can fill in whatever you want, but the best way of putting it is having a plan.
yeah,
Like really,
mm-hmm.
like whether it be the finances or the, God forbid, the EMP attack or something, whatever it is, you got a plan.
Yeah.
So let's get into what we're talking about. So we're going to go through each category that we talked about in this, and from left to right, going from starting at 2014 all the way down to 23, and then the percentages or the differences, okay? And so we'll get into it. And I'm not going to read every piece of this because that would just take forever. One good point to reference right now at the bottom there, historical averages. From March of 92 to December of 23, the average growth in real estate in terms of appreciation per year is 5.5%, okay? So that's going on 30 years of data. Mm-hmm. So in 2014, the criteria for this was a 3-bedroom house in Grand Blanc that was less than 1,500 square feet, okay? In 2014, that was $122,250. And then the interest rate at the time was 4.17. The rent for an average 3-bedroom was $845. Mortgage payment at that purchase price was $927, and your property taxes are $2,800. So now we jump to 2017. The purchase price is a 14.5% difference. Now, what's 14.5 divided by 3?
3 and something.
It's like, yeah, I mean, it's going to be 4 something, but less than 5.5, okay? Then we get to 2020. 2020, it went from an 18% increase over 2017, a 35% increase over 2014, okay? That's that slash there. So 18 divided by 3 is, let's say, 6, right? And then you get to 23, and it was a 21, almost 22% increase from 2020. Mm-hmm. That's that big jump. Mm-hmm. Because even 17 and 20 were still roughly in that historical average of appreciation. 23 is that big pop, and from 2020 to 2023, those 3 years there, you had that crazy low interest for 2 of those 3 years. I mean, what I'm getting at is really not that far off from historical averages. Mm-hmm. It's really not.
Like there's an uptick in 2020 to 2023, but it's not outlandish.
It's 7% as opposed to 5.5%.
Yeah.
Like
I was expecting a lot bigger, to be honest.
Well, what I tell you yesterday when I was doing the research, I told him, I was like, you're going to be surprised at, and you said this last week, the lack of surprises, I think. Mm-hmm. And there's some in here that's like, oh, that's interesting. But as a whole, it's not that big a difference. Now, what is a big difference is the interest rates. Mm-hmm. And these are some of those things that control the controllables. Can't control the interest rate. That's not by me. That's not by you. So in 2014, we started at 4.17. 2017, we dropped. We went to 3.99. 2020, we dropped even further, 3.10. And that was a 25%, almost 26% decrease since 2014. So just imagine that. Prices are going up, but interest is going down. So your payments aren't really adjusting a whole lot. Like your mortgage payment in 2020 versus 2014, look at that. $1,100 versus $927. 6 years have passed. Really not that crazy. And then 2023, this is the big hitter right here. Interest rate went to 6.81. So a 63% increase and 119% increase over 2014. So other way around, I apologize. Thank you. Mm-hmm. But that's that big jump. That's why these things are so unaffordable. It's not like the prices, again, it's like what, 1% difference in what it historically is. And then the rent rates. Rent rates have increased a lot. We have 11% increase. Where is that? 24% increase, and then 23% increase. Now, why would that be?
Why do you?
I think it's pretty easy. I think that it's as simple as there's not enough houses, and then you add in the people can't afford these houses in 23, but they gotta live somewhere.
Yeah, the barrier of entry is harder.
Yeah, it's like, so now you have a bigger pool of would-be buyers are now renting, and there's still a finite amount of rentals out there. And I've dealt with this personally. I listed one of our rentals for X amount of dollars per month, and people were bidding over what we were asking because there's no good houses out there. So it's like, it's supply and demand type stuff. And then property taxes, that just is what it is. You can't really control that either. So I guess put simply, prices, other than like a percentage maybe in the last 3 years, have gone up more than historically speaking. The interest rates have skyrocketed, especially that big drop and then big bump up. I mean, they already said it when it was happening. That was the fastest they raised interest rates in forever. So yeah, let's get into food and grocery. Okay, so down at the bottom, just laid out here, compared to historical averages. So $40 just inflation-wise in 2014 would be equivalent of you spending $52.43 today. Difference of 31%. 3.3% from 1914 until 2024. That is the average inflation. 3.3% per year. Okay. So now we get into baby formula. It's a different metric than just inflation. Okay. Baby food and formula priced at $40 in 2014 would cost you $57.73 today. Part of that's shrinkflation, like we've talked about before, and inflation's in there too. It's just a little bit different. $100 worth of groceries in 2014 would cost you $127.50 today. So that's that 31% we see down there. Yep. So, and then 2017, not a big increase in baby formula, went up 2.7% from in those 3 years, right? Now think about this. 3.3% is the average per year for inflation as a whole, okay?
That's lower.
It is. And then grocery, 1.3% difference.
A lot lower.
Then 2020, 47.75. I don't have those percentages there for whatever reason. I guess I gave up. And then, but what I'm getting at is it's really not any different than historically speaking. No. And if one of you guys want to do those percentages for me, by all means, go at it. I forgot to do that apparently. But you can see it's not that vast difference. It's really not. Let's go on the next one. So now we get to rates and spending. So this is where it gets kind of interesting. So back in 2014, household income was $62,910. National credit card debt was $670 billion. The interest rate of that credit card was 12.74%. Personal savings rate was 5.47%. And then now let me bring up the historical data, and then we'll get to the other years. Savings rate of 8.48% from 1959 until 2024. That is the average per year. Wow. Reaching an all-time high of 32% in April of 2020. What happened?
Pandemic. You're locked in your house. You can't go out and spend money.
And you're getting all the stimulus money. So 32% savings rate. That's fantastic. And a low of 1.4% in July of 2005. Interesting. That was right the height of the previous real estate before the pop. Yeah. 05. Mm-hmm. That was where the prices were a little bit less than what they are now, but not that far off, especially based on the money people were making back then. Historical averages of credit cards since 1991, the interest rate average is 22.75%. Sounds
about right.
In 2023, we're at 21%. Yeah. And then wage growth in the U.S. averaged 6.19% increase from 1960 until 2024, reaching an all-time high of 15.28% in April of 2021. That's when all you had the hybrid remote stuff, and like people were doing 2-3 jobs at one time. Oh, yeah. And then a record low of negative 5.89% in April of 2020. People got laid off, people couldn't work, whatever. So now we get into 2017. There's a 5.7% increase in household income. Now, again, historically speaking, 6.19 is the average. Okay. National credit card debt increased by 19%. Interest rate increased by 2.6%, still way low compared to the average. And then personal savings rate went up by 5.3. Household income in 2020 jumped 9% increase. National credit card debt increased by 2.5%, not a whole lot. But again, the caveat to that is the savings rate at that time, right, was 30-some percent. And then interest increased 2.46, I put 2.46%. And then personal savings rate was 15%. That's awesome. Mm-hmm. And then household income 2023, 3.8% increase. National credit card debt, 21, almost 22% increase. Interest rate on credit cards increased by 42%. Personal savings rate dropped by 71%. 71%. So this is one of the biggest pieces of this whole thing that we're doing. Incomes have increased pretty damn well. I mean, especially after of these averages, you know. Now let's think about it. Now that I'm doing the math in my head, if the average is 6.19% per year, right?
Of wage growth.
Of wage growth, we had 5.7 over 3 years in 2017, 9% over 3 years from 2020, and then let's say 4 in 23. So actually a little bit lower than that. Mm-hmm. I'm glad I caught myself. Mm-hmm. So there's one thing. We'll say that is a non-controllable controllable, because there's ways you can kind of skirt that by side hustles. We talk about it all the time, whatever. Here's a controllable. National credit card debt. 22% increase, dude. That's massive. And then the interest rate, uncontrollable.
Double whammy, though.
Double whammy.
Double whammy. Not only are people taking out more credit card debt, 22% more, they also have a 42% increase on interest of that 22% more credit card debt.
And their savings rate dropped by 71%.
So here's the formula of how, this is kind of my theme, and maybe we're having two different pathways to get to the same conclusion here. Maybe not. This is how I view it. From 2020 to 2023, a lot of different factors for that. COVID, different presidencies, and energy and oil and Russia, Ukraine, and blah, 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 a bunch of stuff, right? The household income only increased at a third of what the average is year over year, right? So you're making a third less of an increase than you normally would. You have the average American is putting 22% more stuff on credit cards than they were, and their interest is 42% more than it was, and their savings rate is 71% less than it was.
All ties into the top three of the three metrics above that.
Mm-hmm. So like the other stuff have increased a little bit. The food, the housing, that type of stuff. It's increased a little bit. Doesn't make the math ain't mathin' for those two to increase so slightly for that to increase so drastically in terms of the debt. So what does that come down to? Does that come down to, it's not an economics problem, it's a symptom of psychological and sociology issues and lack of meaning and lack of purpose. And
it is.
So that's in my head. It's a psychological and sociological issue. Lack of purpose, lack of meaning, lack of direction. And I could go down a whole rabbit hole of social media has fostered this mentality.
Well, we'll get, again, as we go further in this, we kind of touch on that. But what this is showing me is definitely what you talked about. But it kind of is like, yeah, it's a little bit tougher than it was for our grandparents. The math is kind of there showing you. We're not getting, the household incomes are not rising like they historically have, especially in the last 6 years, let's say. And then let me just make a quick point on the inflation, which we talked about with the grocery stuff. And we talk about this a lot, at least in our private discussions, when the CPI comes out, that is not true inflation. However, for the sake of this argument, I use the same metrics they use for each year. So let's say, for instance, if the CPI increase in 2014 was 4% and 2023 was 6%, I'm just putting numbers out there, that doesn't discount the fact that the true inflation in 2014 was more like 12% and the true inflation of 2023 was 18%. It's still, the metrics are still the same. So that's why we didn't talk about the true inflation. I just want to throw that out there because that is a fair point, but it doesn't matter when we're using the same metrics for each year. Okay. But with that said, yeah, I think it's a quick point is, yeah, it might be a little bit tougher than our grandparents. Sure. But again, I feel like I'm kicking a dead horse, but it's like when you're increasing your spend by 22%, and meanwhile the interest rate is going up almost 45%, no wonder you don't have any money. I mean, what do you think is going to happen? It's just like you're putting yourself in this hole.
You're not making it easier on yourself. Like you said, yes, it's a little bit harder than it was for our grandparents, let's say. But why are you making it harder for yourself?
You're not doing yourself any favors by swiping that card all the time.
No. And we all know it's harder to get out of debt than it is to go into debt, right? But that doesn't mean it's a get out of jail free card. It's a get out of debt free card. Like, stop spending money. Just stop spending money on stupid stuff.
And we don't need to bring this up necessarily, but I sent this to myself. I found an article from the New York Post. Title of the article is Doom Spending. So the future is not guaranteed, quote unquote. This whole thing is basically a surge of Gen Zers and millennials are making it rain with their money because they see no end, no light at the end of the tunnel. So they're like, screw it, I'm just going to spend all my money anyway. And this came out even 2.5 years ago. So it's like, what a crappy mentality to have.
And spending money on stupid stuff.
Well, it's like, what happens if you get like, why it just doesn't make sense. Like, let's be honest, that's an emotional reaction. And okay, you're 30, spend all your money. Let's say you make it to 50 and then 65. What are you going to do? Where's your retirement?
Statistically, you will, by the way.
Right.
You'll probably make it to 78 as a man in the United States here.
And I've heard that from people of like, what does it matter? Like, the world's going to crap on you. I'll never own a house. And it's like, okay, then. Again, we talked about this last week. We have a reel out there right now. It's like, stop complaining. Like, just stop. Like, you're just wasting your breath and my time.
If that's your mentality, own it. Don't say another word about how pissed off you are that I am 29 years old and I won't ever own a house. Okay, then stop saying that. If that's the path you are putting your flag in the ground and choosing, if I'm going to be an idiot and say the world's going to go to crap one day because the news tells me that, and I'm going to spend all my money on DoorDash and drinks at the bar and TikTok products, then shut up. I don't care.
It's like, yeah, you're right. You won't own a house.
And guess what? That's more properties for us to buy as rentals to rent to you. For sure. So whatever.
And that's like, not to get a little weird with it, but it's like that's where if that trend continues, you're gonna have people like you and me, and then those people, and this gap that everybody talks about is gonna get wider and wider and wider. It's like Moses is like with the Red Sea. Boosh.
And you know what's gonna be an interesting dynamic in the next 5 years, right? Right now you see a big common thread of, tax the rich, which first off, quick note, you can't, by the way, for all you people who just love spouting off stuff that like AOC who made that address says tax the rich on it. You can't. First off, the $40 or whatever it was.
And real quick, the top tax brackets, top two, I think, account for 89% of the tax revenue. Yeah. So shut up.
Even that, they say, tax the billionaires. You can't. Let me explain something to you guys really, really quickly. First off, billionaires, statistically at least, aren't doing illegal money laundering and all this other stuff, right? They're utilizing the tax code that is written for every single American, okay? Offshore trust, holding companies. There's a bunch of different ways to do it. You will never tax the rich. Because guess what? And then if you try to infringe on trusts and things like that, they're going to pull all their money out of the United States. And they're going to go to Monaco. They're going to go to the Cayman Islands. They're going to go to the Bahamas. They're going to go to Kitts and Nevis. Like, they're going to go to all these different places because they can afford to. So guess what? Your argument of tax the rich, whatever, okay, in the next 5 years, going to your point, that gap that's going to widen because you have all these 20 and 30 something saying the world is going to go to crap one day, maybe 300 years from now, but I'm going to spend my money like an idiot on Starbucks, DoorDash, and TikTok products. Guess what? You're never going to own a home. That's fine. But 5 years from now, I don't want to hear you sit there and crying for the people that even aren't billionaires 5 years from now. Us that are multimillionaires and have a bunch of different properties renting to you. That's where the argument's going to shift, though. It's not just tax the billionaires. It's going to be tax the millionaires. Why should you make $500,000 a year? You should pay all my stuff, right? It's going to keep shifting down because you guys keep making poor decisions.
What a massive point. The point is, all the hard work is done in the shadows. And this isn't hard work. And we're telling you guys what exactly we're doing. Just little short-term sacrifices, little things, save a little bit here and there. Don't spend stupidly, and you'll get ahead. It's pretty simple. Not to say you'll be a millionaire, but you'll be better than the average guy, average Joe.
Well, let me say this. If you get out of debt and invest over the long term, you will be a millionaire. That's the thing that like people don't like to talk about. And I want to kind of go in for a second, okay? Because again, it is all sacrifices, okay? I lived in Scottsdale, Arizona for 5 years. Some of that living in Denver, moved back to Scottsdale. Super, super expensive, right? And in my immature, dumb head, I was away from all my family. And I'm like, well, I'm going out and experiencing life and having fun. And these are the kind of things I want to do. Then I had a wake-up call. I was like, this is stupid. This is really dumb. I'm wasting a bunch of money for stuff I don't care about, for people who don't care about me and I don't care about them. So again, I said it last week. And in one of the reels, it's like, you don't have to live in LA. Mr. and Mrs. 20-something. You don't have to live in New York. You don't have to live in Raleigh. You don't have to live in Miami. You don't have to live in Scottsdale. You don't have to live in Austin, okay? What do you care about, having money or going to the bar or just saying, I live in Miami? Okay, cool, but you're broke.
I'll even take it a step further. And this is something you and I both did, our whole family collectively. Mm-hmm. We've talked about this before. I'll put it out there again because it's not the norm. We all live in one house. Mm-hmm. There is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of us in one house, okay? Do you think, well, I know you don't, but do you think, viewer, that him being 25 and me being 29, married with 2 kids, want to live with our parents? No, but it's not that we have to. It's because we sat down as a family and said, okay, what is important? Important is family, right? Number 1. Number 2 is spending time with each other and not stressing about debt, because that opens your whole life up to all these different options and opportunities. So what is the best way for us to do this in the most efficient way? Let's consolidate everything we have. So we go from 3 houses to 1, and now we're all saving massively. And again, just for you naysayers out there and haters, well, he doesn't even own a house. I own 4. Okay? Again, it's not that I can't. It's because I'm taking these sacrifices like you are, because we have bigger goals. And thank God I have the wife that I have, and because most women would not do this. But she was there with us. It's like, look, if we do this for a year and 2, we can get the house we all want and the area we all that for cash. And then it's like, you don't have to work. You don't have to do what you don't want to do. I don't have to do what I don't want to do. And so all this pain for 2 years is worth it for that 60 years after that, right? Mm-hmm. It's just little things. Little things. Was that hard to do? Like physically? No. Mentally? Yeah. A little emotional? Yeah. I mean, yeah, it sucks. But my 50-year-old self is going to thank me because we did this.
Yep, 100%. And for some of you out there, yeah, you may not have parents or family you can do this with. You got friends, right? Our household income now for all of us, and really it's just 4 working 5 working adults, right? We're at $750,000 a year, right? As a household, no debt, and our monthly bills are sub 10,000 a month as a collective. So to your point, we sat down and first off identified what do we all want. We want land and debt free and a bunch of retirement accounts and a lot of other stuff. Freedom. And so going back to his point, we're like, okay, let's consolidate our $750,000 a year. Everybody gets no debt, and we're going to go find 40, 50, 60, 80 acres and go build the houses we want right next door to each other. So it's our parents have their house, and me and him and our kind of family has our own house 500 feet away from our parents' house with 80 acres behind us. And we're at no debt, and we're still going to be making $750 to $1 million to $2 million a year as the time progresses. Yeah, we made sacrifices. Of course. You know what? Again, I had that awakening where I was living in Scottsdale, being an idiot, being young and dumb, thinking I was having fun and having life experiences, just throwing away so much money for no reason. And then it's like, we all got on the same page and did it. So for you mid-20s, 30s-year-old people, I get it. Not everybody has a family as tight-knit as us. You got friends, right? You got friends that you can do this with. Hold each other accountable. And it's the progression of it is it's dynamic where it's like, okay, I'm going to stop door dashing this month. Hey guys, let's just start cooking together and having, friend meals every single night.
It's building little habits, and those habits compound off of each other. Is like, you apply this to anything in life. Budgeting, working out, which I need to be better at. But it's like you got to start somewhere. Again, back to our friend we were talking about before. Is like, he didn't start right away, but he started and he kept going and going and going, and now he's making great money.
And owns a house with 20 acres.
Yeah, and he's 30 years old.
Mm-hmm.
And again, the outlier.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, wow.
Sorry, rant. I could just go in though, especially just because I lived it. Like, I was spending $4,000 a month living in Arizona for no benefit. So it's like, I understand. I'm 25 years old. I went to Arizona State. I lived in Scottsdale. I spent stupid money. Like, I get it, viewer. I get it. But guess what? The world doesn't care.
Well, it's like, apply that. You brought, again, great point in that we are lucky, and we talk about that, and like the way our family is structured and like our dynamics and how close we are. Not a lot of people have that. We understand that. But your biggest, and this is nothing new, your biggest expenses in life are housing and transportation. Okay, that's always been that way. So let's say you can't move into your parents or move in with friends. There's things you can do. Maybe you don't need that high rise, put it locally. Maybe you don't need that 3-bedroom apartment in Fenton. Maybe you can get by on a 1-bedroom in Grand Blanc or something. Like, there's ways you can be creative. Pay for a car or get a used car. Don't buy a new car. And we'll get to that. That is just, a lot of you are just making stupid decisions with cars. But you can take it at any direction you want. There's ways to be creative.
Mm-hmm. Oh man, I could.
I know, you and me both.
I could keep going, but let's carry on.
So retirement savings. So starting at the bottom, the average stock market return is about 10% per year as measured by the S&P 500, but that 10% average rate is reduced by inflation. You and I talk about this a lot. Investors can expect to lose purchasing power of 2 to 3% every year due to inflation. So let's say it's 7 to 8% increase per year, okay, if you factor inflation in there. All right, so let's get to it. 2014, again, just so you guys know, the way we're doing it, any retirement savings, these age groups is not about dollar amounts. It's just about any retirement savings at all. $1, $1 million, it doesn't matter. So in 2014, age 18 to 29, 61%. Age 30 to 39, 81%. Age 40 to 49, 88%. Total assets in retirement were $32.7 trillion. This is back in 2014. Then we get to 2017. There's a 3.2% decrease from 18 to 29-year-olds. There's a 11% decrease from 30 to 39-year-olds. And there's a 6.8% decrease in 40 to 49-year-olds.
Seeing something quick that's interesting is I was expecting possibly an uptick of lower age brackets to higher age brackets, people moving into that new age brackets and stuff. Nope. Massive decrease.
And then the assets in retirement increased by 18%. A lot of that has to do with the S&P and everything else.
Amazing time for the stock market in 2014, 2017.
Yeah, heck yeah. 2020, 5% increase over 2017. I'm sorry. So now we're at 62%, almost back to 2014 numbers. Then we get to 1.4% increase, 30 to 39, not much change, and then 1.2% increase in 40 to 49, not much change. Assets under or in retirement accounts, 43.7 trillion. Again, a lot of that S&P. That was 13% increase. Now we get to 2023. 8% decrease in 18 to 29 year olds. 57% total. 1.4% increase. So to your point, some of these people in the age bracket in 2020 are now in this other bracket. And then a 2.4% decrease for 40 to 49 year olds. So this is telling me a lot of millennials suck at retirement accounts, dude, because that's that 30 to 39-ish, maybe 25, throw that in there a little bit, but there's older millennials.
Two factors. People are doing it less and the stock market tanked.
That, and I think pulling out.
Yeah. Well, for sure. And because this is something I'm interested in too, is like for all these age brackets, it doesn't matter the age bracket, but do they factor in a crypto account as a retirement account?
I doubt it. I think this is 401ks, this is IRAs, this is just your classic vehicles.
And then look at the retirement assets. 18% decrease.
That's a good point.
Like, okay.
What tells you about that?
Yep. And so that's kind of a social dynamic that is like, okay, maybe benefit of the doubt here. I think this is completely false. But let's say this devil's advocate here, that those 8% decrease and all those other decreases and stuff and people pulling their money out, they're putting it in crypto instead. Possibility. Dumb. Yeah. Super dumb. Super, super dumb, especially when, again, going back to the decrease of savings rates and the credit card debt's going up. It's like, you can't do that. I don't care who you are.
It's a big bet. Sure. I hope it pays off for him. I really do, because if it does, you're going to make a crap ton of money the way things are going. But it's a big bet. It's,
I just see a common thread with, again, like 18 to 29-year-old people see on social media all the time. Like, why would I invest in an IRA? I'll never see that money until 55. I want to use that money now. It's like, so you think crypto's the answer?
It's all this short-term mentality, dude.
Guess what? Do that, and you're going to continue being that, $1 trillion in debt collective. Mm-hmm. Go ahead.
Mm-hmm. No, 100%. So interesting there.
Yeah, scroll down.
And that was a good point. I didn't even think about the crypto thing. Childcare. This is one of those that has not really changed a whole lot at all. Okay, so between 1990 and 2024, daycare and preschool experienced an average inflation rate of 3.84%. What's the average inflation rate as a whole? 3.3%. Yeah. Okay, so childcare in 2014 was I'm just going to make this simple. In 2014, it was $10,100 per year. In 2023, it was $10,800 per year. Increased $70 a month.
Well, it's interesting too. Quick note: 2020 to 2023 went up $1. It went up $1.
So it's just, again, I said this last week. It's just kind of always been expensive. Like, it's not cheap. I'm not saying that at all.
It's $500 a month.
Yeah, but it's kind of always been that for the last 10 years. Yeah. So that what we're getting at is that's not the big factor into why people don't have money now. No. In my mind.
Absolutely not.
Gas prices and car costs. This is where we get into a lot of psychology, right? So compared to the historical averages, the average auto loan term is now 67.9 months for new cars, 67.4 months for used cars, and 36 months for lease vehicles, according to Experian. Auto loan delinquency rates are up compared to last year. When the Fed started collecting data on 72-month loans in 2015, you know why it took them so long to do that?
Not many people.
Because they never did it. Yeah. They never had 72-month loans. So rates stood at 4.52%. By May of 2016, they declined by 0.44 percentage points, landing at 4.08%. From there, they stayed between 5 and 5.5 throughout 2019. And then data from Kelley Blue Book puts the average cost of a new car at $48,008 as of March of 2023. I'll say that again, $48,008 as of March 23. 7 of the top 10 most popular cars in 2023 cost more than $45,000.
Quick note, if we just look up real quick, Chevy Equinox, which for us was just like the average basic car, costs almost half. Like you said, it's all psychology. Why? And there's a big factor where you see, again, it's interesting to look at the spike of basically 2017, but not really. It's more so 2020 to 2023 of all terrible, terrible spending habits. What also happened at that time? Social media become way more popular. TikTok, everybody's got TikTok. TikTok or YouTube is like the it thing. Everybody wants to be a YouTuber. Everybody wants to be an Instagram influencer.
Well, and there's a lot of this fake success thing of like in 2019, it was in 21, let's say 21. It was pretty easy to make decent money. Really wasn't that hard, especially in the real estate game. There's so many people buying. You had to basically try to not sell, like actively try not to sell things. But this is one of those controllables and a massive one. Again, biggest expenses in life are housing. That's we'll say that's controllable adjacent. Okay, we'll say there's only so much you can do outside of building your own thing, which most people can't. I can't. But a car is a controllable, without a doubt. So to your point, in 2014, that Equinox you referenced only cost $2,000 less than what it did in 23. Okay, what increased though? Interest rates of 7% versus 4% in 2014. Gas actually got a little bit cheaper compared to 2014 anyway. Yeah. It's always kind of bounced between like $2.80 and like almost $4. But so you tack into the psychology of purchasing these more expensive vehicles and these higher interest rates. What's your average car payment?
$738.
$738, dude.
That's insane. That's double mine.
That's almost the same cost it was to rent a 3-bedroom in 2014.
Mm-hmm. Wow, that's double mine. And I'm not saying that from a really like a pedestal. It's just like I have a nice, decent car that I lease because that's just all I care about. I don't care about getting a flashy car to show off to other people. I care more about the money in my bank account. And it's like the data is there to show kind of what I'm talking about. People are spending double for what?
When we see this all the time, I'm not going to name her. There's a person on Facebook that we talked about the other day, and they were asking like, oh, I need to get a new car, blah, 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 blah. And at the end of the day, she settled on either an Escalade or a Tahoe. It's like, what?
Stupid. So stupid.
I don't know. To each their own. But again, if you pull that card, I don't want to hear that you don't have money, because it's like, what a waste of money. I mean, her payment has to be $1,200 a month, you would think.
Over $800 for sure.
So what does all this mean? Then I'll just give my thoughts, and then you jump in, okay? Keeping up with the Joneses is a debt trap. I mean, put simply, that's kind of what we were just talking about. The average American lives well above their means. Consumerism is a monster that has progressively gotten worse with the rise in social media. Interest is one of those uncontrollables that massively affect affordability. Cash is king. If you can buy something in cash, I mean, I could do the amortization math for you, but you're going to save massively in the long run. Classic 4-year degree path is not a good option in terms of ROI for the average individual. Exceptions, scholarships, and STEM. Home ownership has become harder to achieve. We already talked about that. It has. I'm not going to BS you guys and say it hasn't, because it has, okay? But it's still not impossible. I want to make that perfectly clear. It can be done. The numbers don't lie, but most people aren't doing themselves any favors with their spending and saving habits.
The funniest thing about this is I didn't let him show me the slides. So I didn't know any of this. I got it all right just from anecdotal observations of how stupid people are on social media, where they want to flex on their Instagram and become the next influencer, TikTok star, YouTuber. It's like, guess what? Continue being broke, idiot. I don't care. I'll go get my 80 acre property, build the home I want, and be a multi-millionaire and have it rent to you. And guess what? You'll be the one missing rent to pay me.
The sad thing is these people they're comparing to on social media to be that Instagram influencer or whatever. It's all fake. Like there's been stories of like they go to a place to pose in front of this private jet. It's not their private jet. They pay $100 to go take a picture of it. So it's like these are the people you're comparing yourselves to. It's just what a massive waste of time and money. Like it's ludicrous.
You know what's interesting? This is a weird adjacent pyramid scheme of being an influencer in a lot of ways, okay? Because they spend the money to buy stuff that they don't care about, but it gives them the clout more or less for people to follow them, where they now can get brand sponsorships and partnerships and whatever, where they're actually making money from social media. And that's how they get to where they're. And then the next person sees that and go, oh, I need to go buy a Louis bag on this credit card because I need to become an influencer. And I need to get this BMW at $900 a month and continue that process. When's the dominoes going to fall? The Jenga tower's falling, people. And guess what? You want to know who is going to be at the bottom of it screwed? You guys. So stop trying to keep up with the Joneses. Like, statistically, everybody's broke.
Exactly.
Like 90% of people are broke. So why do you want to sit there and try to impress the broke people while you're broke yourself?
And it's really a mindset thing because we have talked about this, and to be completely honest with you, we fell into this trap. When we were doing Forex trading, for instance, the first purchase we were talking about was an AMG, which is stupid.
And it's like we made 25 grand in 3 months. In the first 3 months, we're like, let's buy this custom AMG for 160,000
online. And but now where my mindset has been, and it's been work, you guys. I mean, we did Forex 7 years ago, and it's been a great, like you talked about, habits.
Yeah.
Perfect example of like each year you add a little tool here, work on that a little bit more, and then now it happened the other day. We were on the road and we saw like an Escalade, and I was like, oh, I feel bad for them. Like it's just a different mindset, you know.
We look at people in nice cars now and think based on statistics, we think, yeah, that's on a car note. They're in a bunch of debt for that. I don't know. I could go down a whole rabbit hole. I mean, this is the thing too, is like, you know what pays off better than trying to front your way to success? Hard work and strategic moves. Quick personal example of my life. I busted my butt working at an investment firm. I hated that job, but I busted it out. And now I have those like that ideal TikTok dream tech sales job you've been hearing about for the last 3 years, where it's like, or 4 years, where it's like, I work 5 hours a week and make 150 grand a year. And all I do is I have a meeting with so-and-so attorney today and talk about my software. And then they buy it. Okay, I made 15 grand this month.
But you put the work in to get that job.
For sure. So yeah, so those tech sales jobs everybody's been telling you to get on TikTok for the last 4 years, I got it. I got it again. And I'm not ashamed of it, because you know what? I'm a college dropout, dude. Like, I'm a college dropout who I went to Arizona State, econ, pre-law, wanted to be an attorney, said, screw that. I'm not spending $150,000 a year. I don't need a college degree. Got work experience, was doing that, busted my butt in an investment firm, managing 600 financial advisor practices with them. Got this tech sales job where it's like, okay, so I work 5 hours a week, making 150 grand a year, and we're doing Outlier, and we're doing 2 other businesses we won't talk about here right now. And it's like, what also changed in that thing? I had 2 big changes. I cut my expenses by like 90%. I left Arizona, and something we already talked about, right? Moved back here. You know, we all got on the same page, and massively just increased my income on just that one front. So 3 fronts, and decreased my time spent working on one thing.
So it goes back to, we talked about this weeks ago, and nothing novel here, but there's 2 or 3 ways to get out of the rat race. One is increase your income, right? to produce more saving. 2 is decrease your spending. 3 is a combination of the two, which you did number 3. You'd increase your income and decrease your spending. So, you know what I mean? So it's like, again, this is like, sorry, it's not like breaking news, but it's like, just make more money in different ways. Or if you can't do that, because we know the job economy is not that robust right now, but there's ways you can save money. Stop eating Uber. Stop eating Uber Eats or whatever it is every day, if not twice a day. Don't go and buy a Tahoe when you're 25 years old. Like, you don't have a family of 6. What are you doing?
Even if you did, go buy a van.
A used one. Mm-hmm. And then again, do you really, like, if the housing thing is like, yeah, that's kind of one, again, I said it earlier, is like, it's a controllable adjacent, in that it's like, there's only so much you can do outside of like drastically changing an area. And if you have kids, like, there's probably a reason you're not in a specific area anyway. But you got to get creative and don't get into this doomsday spending thing, because there's no end in sight for you then. If that's where you've set up your mindset and just taken that of like, oh, well, I guess I'm done. I'm screwed for the rest of my life. It's like, what a crappy way to live, man. I don't know.
See, I got a couple points. I'm about to go off for a quick second. Okay. First and foremost, if you are upset or irritated that you're broke, first and foremost, you need to identify the goals that you want to get to. Okay. That's the first and foremost. If you don't want to be broke, then there's a couple different ways, right? Increase your income, whether that is try to get better certifications. If you are halfway through school, try and get scholarship to finish school on a very cheap budget to increase your income. Try to get a different paying job, do a side hustle, whatever, right? Another, like you said, section 2 is decrease your spending. Stop spending money on stupid stuff. Section 3, do both. Okay. And if part of your goal is to buy a home and have X amount in savings and, X amount in retirement account stuff, do those things and don't complain. Okay. Adjacent now, for people who you're broke, you're upset about it, but your goal is not to have home ownership or retirement accounts, all this stuff. Stop complaining. Shut up. Grow up. You know what? If that's your goal, shut your mouth. Because you know what? I'm sick of hearing all this crap. Blah, 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 blah. I'm 25. I can't own a home. Well, guess what? If you've identified you don't want to own a home, then why is that coming out your mouth? Grow up. Stop playing the victim card. Stop putting on social media for likes and clicks and views of, oh, poor me, this or that. I'm too freaking lazy to go work 80 hours a week or 60 hours a week and try and get a side hustle and stop spending money on DoorDash and Uber Eats, which is 4 times more expensive than cooking. We saw the stats, right? Grow up and shut up. I don't care. I'm sick of hearing it.
It goes back to follow the money. Okay, where is your money going? That's what you prioritize. It's as simple as that, dude. It really is. It's like, if you are spending money with going out with friends every weekend, going to bars, whatever, any extracurricular that does not benefit your income and or your growth as a person. Again, we're not saying to be Mennonites. Again, we get it. People have fun. We have fun. We get it. But it's all about moderation, okay, and prioritization. You said it best. Let's get to that. We've crapped on people for a while, so let's say, okay, here's what you can do, okay? Plan A, or step 1 is, what's your goal, right? What is your goal? It can be as simple as, I want to have, and honestly, I'm the fan of start small type thing. Build these little victories, kind of like the snowball thing with Ramsey, let's say, right? Your number one goal should be I want to have $2,000 in my bank account, let's say. That's a great goal to have. Start there, okay? You get there. Okay, now you set that aside. I'm not touching that. Next goal, what debt do I have? And this is where I differ with Ramsey. He's going to tell you to start with the smallest debt and go and do that snowball. I guess psychologically that's a good way to do it. Math-wise, I'd start at the higher interest, like your credit card's at 22%. But either way, then you got to start paying off this debt, okay? And then it just, again, that's where the snowball happens. It's like, oh, I got one credit card paid off that I was spending $500 a month on my minimum. Well, I can just apply what I was spending to the next credit card. And so now I can put $1,000 on that credit card. And then sure enough, that one gets paid off. And it's like, oh, crap, now I got $1,000 I can put on this third one. And it's like, that's where it starts getting, you start getting traction. And then sure enough, at the end of that third credit card, it's like, okay, well, now I've just saved $2,000 a month in what I was spending, and I got rid of all this debt. And then you tackle the next one. Maybe it's your car. Maybe your next goal is, okay, now I'm saving for my house. Whatever it is, but you gotta have one is a goal. Make a vision board, for God's sakes, if you want. I don't care. Do something, and stick to the plan. Start small, build these habits, and go from there. But you can't just wander through life just complaining and doing nothing about it and for what? If you don't even know what you want, what are you complaining about? So that's my advice.
That's all I got.
Oh, okay.
That's all I got. I think I've ranted enough and preached to people.
You want to add any steps, or is that pretty much?
That's 100% right. I think one thing too is this generation is way too soft. Kind of tying it again. I'm gonna preach to people for 1 second. Achieving these goals is hard. I'm not gonna say it's not. It is hard. But how bad do you want your goal? Okay. And I'm not saying you got to go work 100 whatever hours a week. But there's a balance. There's the balance scale of like decrease spending, increase income, right? If you can do, first off, at least one of those things, incredible. You're going to make progress. If you can do both, you're going to expedite it light years.
And I just wonder what is the breaking point you need? Because that's what happened to me. Is I got to the point where I was like, I'm just working to pay bills. Like, what kind of life is that? And I know that's how you guys feel. That's why you're complaining. I get it. That sucks. But nothing's going to change until you do something different. And I just want to throw this out there. You guys should know this already, but there's plenty of ways we've talked about value add in terms of how you can add to your value as an employee or whatever. There's so many certs and stuff you can get online. There's like Coursera, there's study.com, there's YouTube, for God's sakes. And there's just so many different avenues now that, frankly, you have no excuse. There's no excuse. Think of him. He doesn't even have he's a college dropout. I'm a college dropout, for God's sakes. Mm-hmm. And it just takes a little creativity and effort. And, yep. So to wrap up, that is Back to the Future. And into the future, the plan is, what we're always talking about is you just got to make money and save it. Make money and save it. Another little quick note, this is going to be the last time in this podcast studio. We are moving studios. So I'm hoping that we have a new episode, sticking with our timeline. But that remains to be seen, depending on how long it takes to get the new studio set up. But yeah, appreciate you guys checking us out.
Yep. All right. Bye-bye. Thank you.